Okay, and we're live. Woohoo! You guys, I am so excited. It's been a little bit since I've been on here. I think at least 3 or 4 weeks. And, the holidays were so much fun. I am so ready to be back in live, in person with all of my friends, my family, my energy healing community. And amongst those that are, I don't know if I'm supposed to have favorites, if it's allowed that I have favorites, but Tomasa Macapinlac is one of those that if she, for some reason, is not able to come to a conference all day long, people are coming in and asking, hey, where's Tomasa? Because she is a highly sought after speaker at our conference. People love to be able to come and do sessions with her because they feel the difference. They know that there's a difference. And so today I wanted to bring her on and have her talk briefly a little bit about her story. And maybe she even has some stories that she'd like to share from people who have done work with her. She just got back from a retreat where she did some very beautiful work with some key people that she's been working with. So we'll have her talk a little bit about that if she feels inclined. But I want you guys to know who she is. She is a UC Berkeley trained electrical engineer turned shamanic energy healer. And I think different people have different ways of thinking about shamans. Maybe they think that you're a drug dealer or somebody who does hard things. I mean, seriously, that's been referenced in some of the movies I've watched. I'm like, that's not what a shaman is at all. I know shamans. I know Tomasa, and she's not like that. She's very much against what that person's idea was. Instead, she's all about healing. She understands the human system as both circuitry and consciousness. She's been doing this work for nearly 30 years, and she helps high achieving professionals to really sense that deeper calling within them to be able to become their own sovereign in their own healing and rewire their burnout and awaken intuition. You guys, she is all about healing. That's what she stands for. She's not like some of the other references that people have made. And I don't want to take offense to it, but I almost do for shamans who have dedicated their life and everything that they hold dear to helping people heal. So Tomasa, I'm going to go ahead and turn the time over to you for just a few moments. I'll be back in just a few. And I'd love to have you kind of speak to that and share what your thoughts and feelings are.
Yeah, well, I'm glad you brought that up, Tammy, because, I don't see myself on the camera here, so I don't know what's going on here. There we go. So, hi. Let's speak to shamanism because a lot of people will use that word and throw it around so loosely. I even have one of my friends who has been part of a Native American community here in California. I'm actually in California today. And she has mentioned to me about, be careful about using the word shamanism or shaman, because there's so many people who call themselves a shaman and they really aren't a shaman. So first of all, I'm going to talk about shamanism because shamanism, there's all kinds of shamans out there. And, you might have heard the white shaman, the black shaman, the yellow shaman, those types of things. And it's so funny because my kid came back from Peru back in 2022 talking about it. I went to Peru in 2012. I was not exposed to that. I just know I was initiated as a shaman of the Inca tradition. Now, many people want to spell it I-N-C-A. Well, really, the Quechuan word is actually spelled E-M-Q-A, Inca. And so, that in itself shows you, the difference in how we might, change the spelling just so it matches what we are familiar with, right? And so, but shamanism is a person and it's someone who can see the dark, who can see the shadows is the way I like to describe it. And they can actually see how it needs to transform. And it transforms into the lights. So how can you take this situation here? Maybe a person has got a lot of dark energy around them, or they have a lot of obstacles in the way of their goals, or blockages is what we like to call it. I've actually done a whole, talk about how to remove your blockages. And so how do you, get those things out of your way so you can transform your life and be the person you're here to be and attract what you want in your life? And I think that is, the way that I look at things. How can I help people live their highest potential? That's what I'm here for. I mean, I could show you a picture of me at Ollantaytambo. That is a sacred site in Peru. And that was given to me. That insight was given to me. You are here to help people live their life's purpose. And living their life's purpose helps them live their highest potential. And I'll never forget that moment when I was at Ollantaytambo. I was in tears because the truth was being spoken to me. But of course, my human self was sitting there like, who am I to do that? Who am I to do that, right? Because I had been a healer for 2012, and I want to say maybe it's 15 years because I started healing in 1997. So yeah, it was 15 years I'd already been a healer, and I received that insight. And I've been a healer to help people heal their bodies. I'm very good at that. I understand that, and I have to be careful with that because, they don't want us to know that we can actually do better by, not having to take pharmaceuticals all the time. But there are ways to help people energetically heal things. And yes, it might take longer, but it's more natural and it's a process, and it helps you to look at your shadows and how you might have been programmed to believe this. I look at my own life and my own family and the things we come with, and then I understand why these conditions or these health challenges might have come in someone's life. So because of all the modalities that I have ingrained in myself for the last 30 years, almost 30 years, I come to understand the mental equivalence to what somebody presents themselves with. But we also are able to read the person, read them, their face reading. I can read their tongues. I can listen to their pulses. And that's just from a Chinese medicine perspective. And I think they call them, when you're in Chinese medicine, the shaman for Chinese medicine is actually called Ama. If I believe someone had mentioned that to me, I'm like, yeah, okay, I guess I'm an Ama too. So, but I've been trained in both. And I always say trained because it's developed over the years and it's become a big part of my life. It's the way I show up. It's who I am. Somebody hits the door or somebody comes and talks to me and tells me what's going on with them, I'll know. And sometimes I don't always share because I need to be humble and I don't have their permission to tell them what I'm feeling about them. So, so shamanism is a word that's thrown around, and I want you to be very clear. It's about being able to see the shadows or the darkness and how to help someone get from out of there to the light, to transform their lives. And so that really is what shamanism is about. It's not, and not everybody's a shaman. Let's be real clear about that. Some people call themselves shaman and they've never been initiated as a shaman. Because let me tell you, I just finished initiating 3 beautiful women for this last year on the medicine wheel called Sacred Sovereignty. Because when you are initiated, you begin to feel free of your conditioning, free of, whatever gets in the way of yourself totally showing up that you need to be. And I think that's important to understand that, because you can be totally transparent and you're not embarrassed anymore. How many of you would like that? I mean, let's be clear about that. People show up and make mistakes and then they're embarrassed. I fell at the last conference and right in front of Tammy and everyone, in the audience. And I got right back up and I just laughed, because the truth is that if I had done that like 20 years ago, I probably would have been totally embarrassed. I got right back up and I said, and I shared that with them. And so, transparency is a virtue. And I want to say that because we should not be embarrassed about anything. We're showing up the way we need to. Yes, I made a mistake. I failed. The big deal. Some people are like, you're okay? I'm like, yeah, I was fine. Why did I fall? I don't know. But I'll tell you, first of all, I'm a Sagittarius rising. And if you know anything about Sagittarian energy, you know that the symbol for Sagittarius is half man, half horse. And so I can be a little clumsy with my feet because, I'm tripping over my own feet like a horse could do, right? And so, that's my nature, to be a little clumsy. And I'm okay with that. I get it. I understand that's part of who I am. And so when somebody looks at their rising sign, it's like, how do you appear to the people that you are, when they first see you? And that's what they saw. They saw that Sagittarius rising right then and there. And I was okay with it. So
I was so glad you were okay, because I was like, oh no, you know what I mean? Like, because I probably would have cried. I'm not going to lie. I probably would have cried. And you just were totally like, okay, here we go. This is called real life. It's a human moment, right? And I mean, what do you think about that whole idea of the Chinese zodiac, where we talk about the year of the snake is what we're finishing up and going into the year of the horse? It made me think about that when you were just saying the Sagittarius is half horse.
Half man. Mm-hmm. Well, it's really interesting because the year of the snake is ending. And that was what also associated with 2025 primarily. And, it's just different because the Gregorian calendar is different than the Chinese medicine calendar. Or I shouldn't say Chinese medicine calendar. We call it a lunar cycle calendar because when we start the Chinese astrology, it's usually actually it's coming right at a solar eclipse. Yeah. The Aquarian solar eclipse. And so, that's coming right here in February 16th. That's right. And so here's the thing is that I want to talk about this a little bit because it's real. Snake in Inca shamanism, this is all intertwined. It's about shedding the past because a snake sheds its skin. The reason why snakes shed their skin is because they are releasing the parasites that have been, on them. Okay. And 2025, add that up. 2 plus 0 plus 2 plus 5 equals 9. Well, 9 is an end of a cycle, okay? And then the snake shedding its skin is like showing us how to shed our stories, shed our past. And think about it, 9, we're shedding. We've been shedding all throughout 2025. And some people are so happy to have 2025 over. And it's great to have 2025 over. But, we're always going to be shedding. That's the truth. But we've shed a lot last year. And, we look at what's going on in the world because the world feels very heavy. Well, of course the world's going to feel very heavy because everybody's shedding their stuff. I would say a different word, but I'm on camera here. Everyone's shedding their stuff, whether you realize it or not. It's like, and we are shedding things collectively, whether we realize it or not. We had this whole conversation over the weekend. It was so heavy on Friday. One of my assistants brought this because she was upset what's going on in the world. And we just looked at her and I said, listen, sweetheart, you got to understand the bigger picture. And that's what shamans do. They see the bigger picture. And the bigger picture is about what is really going on, because we just finished the East. The East has eagle eyes. What does an eagle do? An eagle is a 10-foot wingspan. It flies so high, it soars. The other birds can't even, get up there with the eagle. A raven can get on an eagle's back, and once the eagle reaches a certain altitude, the raven falls off because he can't handle that high altitude. But ego is seeing the bigger picture. It's the bird's eye view. What is really going on? And I said this to my assistant, hey, this man is the catalyst for what needs to change in the world. I don't like to bring all that stuff up. And that's what we have to understand. the pot is being stirred because the collective, I'm telling you from an astrological point of view, when Pluto hit Aquarius, Aquarius is all about the collective. Pluto is all about transformation. Listen, our shamans are all about transformation. So good things are coming. We just have to birth it. And it might take a minute to birth. Labor pains aren't fun, right? So we're birthing something new. And it feels painful right now. But I guarantee you that it's going to feel good for years to come. And things are changing. But anyway, this is about us rewiring the energy of the world and rewriting our lives. Because that's what's happening here right now, believe it or not.
Yeah, that's amazing. I appreciate you sharing that because I've had some people say, you know, I just don't get on the internet anymore because it's so negative. It's hard to avoid someone attacking someone else or having strong opinions or whatever. And I like recently did this little meme. It was a picture of a sage bundle, and it's not meant to be like, you know,
I saw it and I shared it in my stories.
It's meant to be more light, you know, but it literally is like, I want to smudge the whole internet, you know, right now. And I think that it's actually happening in a way, you know, the shedding that you're talking about. So yeah. And Jennifer's saying, wow, rewiring the energy of the world. I love it. Yes, it is totally a huge transformation for the whole planet. And I just want to maybe have you share something that you do on a regular basis to keep yourself grounded and not so like enveloped in other people's stuff. Do you mind sharing that for
No, I don't mind sharing. So, you know, formerly, and I still am the self-care queen. I will always be the self-care queen. It's just that I believe that I do self-care more on a soul level today than when I coined myself as a self-care queen back in 2010. That was my branding back then. Now it's Shaman for the Stars because I'm a shaman. I'm bringing the stars down to you. And so here's what this is all about. It's about coming to a place where you can stay at peace. You know, it's about being in that stillness among the chaos. And I think that's so important for all of us. I have chills as I say that to you. It was one of the themes this past weekend with my students. How can you be still in all the chaos and let the chaos just be around you? It's like, you know, I had someone recently yelling at me on the phone about a month ago. And so I was like, oh, I saw the bigger picture. So I didn't react to it. I just let them yell because they needed to do that. But how can I do that? Well, it's about taking care of the self and taking care of the self on so many levels. You know, what is it that does it for you? For me, I just took a nice long hike yesterday at one of my favorite places that had all the elements: water, the earth, the air, you know, all of it. Plant spirits, because wood is part of the 5 elements. I'm thinking fire, sun. The sun is fire element. I love to bathe myself in the 5 elements. And I got that yesterday. I mean, I was so grateful to Spirit for that. And, you know, so hiking out in nature does it for me. Another thing I do on a regular basis is sun gaze. And sun gaze is a very ancient healing practice that comes from Ayurvedic. I believe it's Ayurvedic medicine. And where you actually look at the sun be right after it rises or right before it goes down. And you have to build up your time. So it's within the hour that it rises and within the hour when it goes down. So you look at the sun and you build your time. So when you first start out, you start out with 10 seconds, then you bring in 20 seconds and then 30 seconds. So the time builds, and you can build up to 20 minutes. I have built up to an hour. It's harder to do it in the wintertime when I'm, you know, traveling and going other places. But, you know, I don't really want to put my bare feet on the ground. So it requires you to put your bare feet on the ground. That's called earthing for most of us. And you look at the sun for 10 minutes or 10 seconds. You build it up every day. So I'm about at 10 minutes now because I have missed it being back east. It's cold, it was snowing. And I'm sure all you folks in Utah, it snows and it doesn't. And then I understand. I looked at the weather. It looks like it's good today. But in Arizona, it's a different story. And California is hit or miss. It might be muddy or rainy or whatever. Life has changed here in California, especially Southern California, but it's sunny these days. I'm very grateful for 80-degree weather here. But you can look at the sun for 10 seconds, build it up every day. So the second day would be 20 seconds. The third day would be 30 seconds, and keep track of it and get up to at least 20 minutes. And it is a very meditative practice. So you can get answers from spirit that way. You can ask questions. Sometimes I say, okay. In Inca shamanism, we call the sun Inti Tai Tai. That's the Quechuan word for the sun, Inti Tai Tai. So I'll say, Inti Tai Tai, what wisdom do you need to share with me today? And I'll stare at the sun and hear the answers. So that's one way to meditate, right? Another way is to, I start my day out with visualization. What do I want to happen in my day today? Most days I start out that way and see how I want to feel at the end of the day. Another thing I do is I have a gratitude journal, and I'll write 21 things that I am appreciative in every day. And then I'll write down 3 things that I'm working on creating in my life. Now, it's very interesting. I want to share something really fun with you because, we had our retreat in Oceanside. We didn't have a private fire pit. We create a fire bundle, not a fire bundle, a prayer bundle at every retreat. And so it's like, how do we end the retreat? So we put our prayers or our intentions into this prayer bundle. And you might, if you follow me, you might see me, posting some of the prayer bundles. I don't post them right after we do them. These are ones that you see are usually, happened a year or so ago. I have lots of pictures of prayer bundles, which we call despacho. That is the name that Inca shamanism calls it, despacho. So I have them at every new moon ceremony as well. So I have one coming up this Sunday. And so we went to go burn our prayer bundle at the beach. So, public beach in Oceanside, California, which is near San Diego. And so, finding a fire pit, a public fire pit could be an issue, right? And so what I did, I have my medicine tool bag. I don't have it right next to me. So, here I have it here. I'm like, here it is. So this is my medicine tool bag. This is something we build in Sacred Sovereignty, the medicine wheel. We have our healing stones, and I have 13 in it. So inside, I opened it up, and I have 13 kuyas. That's our stones that have been programmed for our healing. And I decided that I needed to make sure that we were going to be able to find a fire pit. So I took the formation of my stones. I made a fire pit, like I could find a fire ring. And then in the middle, I put the fire in there. And then I put the people on the outside to represent, us around the fire pit. And I just kind of blew that intention into my mesa. My mesa is my medicine tool bag. It's my magic, I would say, right? And so I want you to know, when it was time for us to go burn the despacho or the prayer bundle, we went looking for the public fire pit. And when we got to the beach, there were pits, there everybody was occupied. And so I brought one of my students with me. I said, come here, I need you to come and, we'll park and we'll go look for a fire pit. And everybody else was in the car waiting. And we found a fire pit that was burning, and the people had left it, and it was like a roaring fire. And so I looked at her, and I looked at the people, and I said, hey, is this available? They said, yeah, the people just left. And we were like, oh. And so I said, listen, hold this pit for us, hold this fire ring for us while I go get everybody else. She says, my mace is in the car. I said, no problem, we will bring it to you. So we all came. So I want you to know it could take a minute to actually start a fire. It could take a minute for us to try to find a fire pit, but we created it right there and manifested it right there on the spot in Oceanside. Oceanside can be very crowded. California can be very crowded. I'd say that as a Californian, right? And so we create that for ourselves. So the thing is, how can you have more ease and grace in your life? How can you make your life work without all the obstacles? Part of it is, intention. Have intention with everything. Hear the answers from spirit. I'm going to be talking at the conference about rewiring your energy and rewriting your story, because life doesn't have to be hard. And we don't have to be the hamster on the hamster wheel trying to make it work and trying to work hard. We're not here to work hard. We're here to explore the world and have an adventurous life. And it's like I tell my students, when I went to Peru in 2012, I went with a child's eyes. I didn't go and study different sites. I just went open. I think of my little nephew Zusi, who's 3 years old. He just goes and he explores everything. He's a Gemini like I am. And he just goes and explores the world, what is, next. He's curious. And being curious helps you to be open to receive whatever answers you have for yourself. So, so that is part of my self-care regimen. It's how you do life in general. Being conscious about, hey, I'm going to be open to receive whatever's coming my way. And even the stuff that doesn't feel so good, you have to find a way to understand that it was put on your path for a reason. Just like all this stuff going on in the world, it's put on our path. We were put here for a reason at this time because we could handle it. We can deal with it, right? We're here to make changes to the world, especially if you're a light worker. You are here for a reason. I'm real clear. I'm here to help bring more healing and harmony to the world. So, that is my mission here. And so being at the energy healing conferences, I'm actually here to help bring harmony to people's lives. And when people come with a stump, like no one's been able to help me, I'm like, come on, let's look at it. I'm that girl that would say, we can do better. I know we can. And so I'll have people look at it on a deep level, whether that be on a subtle level or just, in your face, like let's look at the programming that has been put on your path here. So I love helping people get beyond their circumstances, whether that be physical, mental, or emotional.
Yeah, it's awesome. I love actually how you do that, because it's like if somebody has been stuck in a victim mindset for a while and they know it, but they can't seem to pull themselves out of it, the work that you do with people with the energetic circuitry, whether they're on your massage table or whether they're doing it even remotely, it can help them so much with that. In fact, do you want to share a little bit about how you do work with people virtually? Because there might be somebody that's watching this right now that maybe they can't come to the conference, so they're not going to get the chance to get on your massage table right away. Maybe you could talk to them for a little bit. Is that okay?
Yeah, perfect. Yes. So, a lot of people think that you need to physically be in someone's presence to work with them. And that is not the case. Actually, I find that when I work with people remotely, that's more shamanic kind of sessions. We call them illuminations. And what it's doing is illuminating the light in you and removing the shadow pieces in you. So it's kind of twofold, or maybe it's more threefold, because I'm cleaning you out energetically. I'm also processing you. It's all done over the phone. We could do it over Zoom. Somebody says, oh, Tomasa, you don't do much. I go, no, I've always done them over the phone before there was Zoom. And here's the thing. I find that when people aren't looked at, they seem to release more. Their inhibitions aren't there. So, so I'm working with them energetically. I'm not looking at them, I'm feeling them energetically, and I'm working with them energetically. And as I work with them energetically, they get clearer. As a matter of fact, I was back east with my sweetie in Baltimore, and I did a session with somebody from the Tempe Energy Healing Conference. She said, I knew when I heard you, I needed to sign up with you. And when I talked to her days after she had gotten her session, she said, I feel really good, Tomasa. Thank you. She felt very clear. The thing is that to maintain or sustain that clarity, we must do self-care. And so I give people some self-care things to do on themselves. And I also do something what I call a mythical alignment session. So it's like setting up something like an altar that represents that transformation that just took place. Because we'll continue to look at what contribute to the shadow piece and then transform it. And then we create what we call a big, long affirmation, I would say, something of that sort, right? I call them spiritual mind treatments. So because it comes from my metaphysical background since my 20s. I'm 62 today. So you can understand that I've been doing this work 40 years on myself itself, but I've been nearly doing the healing work for 30 years. So when you work with someone remotely, they're brought over energetically. We have what we call a luminous energy field. And so I work with that field and I repair it. I pull all the gunk out. It might appear to be, some people might have spirit attachments that they're not even aware of. So I'm repairing the field itself, but I'm also processing the person because they are rewiring their neural pathways, or I should say refiring new neural pathways to replace the ones that kept them in the pattern that they kept repeating. Okay. And so then after we're done, I send them right back and their lives change and they feel clearer. And so one of the things I hear my students talk about is like, my soul feels so clear, but my body is exhausted. And I'm one of the few people who knows how to integrate the body with the soul stuff. And so I give them things to do with their bodies to bring it back into integration with what just happened. Because man, when we clear those pieces, the soul is like happy, right? But the body's like, wait a minute, I haven't caught up with it. And so then I know how to work on people or teach them how to work on themselves to bring it back into integration. And so I said a lot there, but there is a way for people to work with me remotely. My cosmic blueprint sessions, they're done remotely all the time. I used to do them right at the conference. And then I decided, I want to give people the chance to ask me questions and not be rushed because someone's waiting for their turn. And so we schedule about an hour, where I do the cosmic blueprint readings. And I think that is a very important piece because that is the assessment piece. That is the piece that is all about, who am I? Have I been following my blueprint or not? And if I've been following my blueprint, have I been following the shadow piece of it, or have I been following the light piece of it? And I think that's important for everyone to understand, because there is a shadow and a light to everything. And so anyway, and there's a way for people who aren't coming to the conference to work with me. I do it all the time. I love working remotely. And then, I do a lot of follow-up because that's who I am. It's part of my background. Mm-hmm. And so I think the follow-up is important.
Yeah, that's awesome. Well, and I've done a session with you over the phone, and I appreciated that it wasn't over Zoom because you told me to get in a place where I could relax. I laid down in my bed and I was so relaxed. And can I just share a little bit?
Yes.
You sang to me and it was so healing. It was so beautiful. And, I've only had a couple people ever sing to me before. One time was with someone who I went into a day spa and I told them, I said, I have a really bad headache. And the woman said, she goes, well, this is a little unorthodox. And I said, I do unorthodox. So I'm good with that. As long as like, you know, it's legal. And it was. So we're good. She turned the lights off and just sang Sanskrit to me. And it was one of the most beautiful and enlightening and powerful experiences of my entire life. My headache gone just like that. And I was so relaxed and so at ease. And I mean, I went in there to get relief from my headache, and it was just absolutely beautiful. And then the other time is when my mother and my grandmother would sing to me when I was young.
Mm-hmm.
And then, of course, you. And all of those experiences have just been, they're things that you remember. You know what I mean? It's not like just going in for another treatment or another session or another appointment or something. It's like something that really reaches the depth, the deepest parts of you. And so anyway, it's just like, I was just thinking about that when you were saying, yeah, I usually do phone. I'm like, I'm so glad that you did phone, you know?
Yeah.
Instead of, because I was able to allow myself to relax without worrying about what you looked like or what you were thinking of me, or, you know what I mean? It was just so at peace, and I just loved it. So anyway, very exciting stuff. Jennifer's got a few questions for you, but since we're out of time, I'm going to let you go ahead and respond to her directly. She's the one who's doing the healing rock concert at the end of the day at the Energy Healing Conference. So I'll have you go ahead and reach out to her. And I have her phone number too, if you want to reach out to her. She's amazing.
Okay. Jennifer, I'm happy to answer your questions. You can follow me on Facebook at tomasamacapinlac.com. Just find me. I would love to meet you too. So yes.
She's a sweetheart. I just adore her. You guys would totally hit it off. You would totally love each other so much. So, but we're going to go ahead and let you go for the day. I know you've got lots of other things to do as well. And I just want to say how grateful I am for your support and how much I appreciate you showing up and offering services for people in person at the conferences and also virtually. Even if people can't attend the conference, you still are able to support them. And we've got the link up. We've put it up several times today. If you guys have any questions at all, you can reach out to her. Her website has been listed many times throughout this episode today. But if you have any questions, feel free to reach out and we'll take care. Thank you so much.
Thank you. I appreciate all that you do. So look forward to meeting everyone at the conference. Come by and see my talk at 11 a.m. Come by and visit my booth as well. Many blessings to you all. Mwah.
Thank you so much, sweetheart. See ya.
Thank you.
Bye.